How sweet. Plant-based imitation meat.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor and I'll be your host as we go through all the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to that in the description below and it'll give you a pretty good idea of what the Horror Movie Syllabus is about. But today we're doing our essentials in the franchise videos, or whatever we're calling it. We don't really have a good name for this series. We've only done, this is the third one we've done. We do them about once a year now. And this is where I take a deeper dive into a franchise that I've already talked about and kind of examine each movie in the franchise to determine whether or not it's essential viewing. You know, as the Horror Movie Syllabus, we like to focus on the essential horror movies. And then we look at a franchise, you can say the franchise as a whole is an essential horror franchise, but the individual installments don't always measure up to that standard. And that's what we look at in this series. We've already done Friday the 13th, we've already done Halloween, and now we're doing the third in our slasher icons, the Nightmare on Elm Street series with Freddy Krueger. And those of you who watch regularly know that I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan, and I also really love Halloween. And Freddy lags behind Jason and Michael, to be honest with you, for me. He's not as captivating, and we'll see a little bit of why that is as we examine these movies. But I've always had Freddy kind of a distant third to the other two slasher icons, and I'm not upset about that. But that said, I still do really like the Nightmare on Elm Street series, in particular the first one. I think it stands apart from both Friday the 13th and Halloween, and how imaginative it is, and Freddy has far more personality than the other slasher icons. So I understand the appeal, and I do appreciate the appeal. The individual movies is where there's a problem, and that's again what we're going to kind of dig into today. The movies can break down a little bit for me, and kind of lose their allure. And some of my opinions today are going to be minority opinions, to say the least. There are movies in this series that I like that other people do not like, and then there's movies in this series that I'm not too high on that people love. So that's going to be fun and going to make for some fun comments, I'm sure. But you know, we're going to try to look at these as objectively as possible in terms of evaluating whether or not they're essential. It's not a video about how much I like them or if I like them or not. This is a video of, you know, as objectively as I can make it, coming from my own perspective, how essential these are to somebody coming into the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. The idea being, if you had never seen it before, this was your first time watching it, you know, which ones do I feel like you need to watch in order to appreciate Freddy, in order to appreciate the franchise as a whole, and understand why it's as popular as it is. So that's what we're shooting for today. And at the end of the video, if I have time for it, I'll go ahead and rank them for you guys. I'll rank them. People like rankings in videos, so I'll rank the movies from ones I like the best, the ones I like the least. You know, why not? We'll go over that as well. But as for which movies are essential, let's just dig into it right now. Let's start at the top and work our way down. The first Nightmare on Elm Street film is arguably a bona fide horror classic. It is a little bit of a modern masterpiece. It's not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination, but it's made so incredibly well, and it does so much to set up not just the franchise, but in its own movie, in a self-contained movie, so many things, so many images and iconic things that will stick with you, that it's no surprise that it became like pop culture phenomenon. It's really an imaginative, clever, and most importantly, scary movie. The movie is bona fide scary. It is a movie that I saw it when it came out, so it would have been, what, 9 or 10, and it scared me. Like, I actually literally had nightmares, and having nightmares about a Nightmare on Elm Street is a disturbing thing to have happen to you, because it's, you know, how you get killed. You get killed in your dreams, and that's, you know, disturbing, obviously, for, you know, for a young kid, but it was very effective. The character of Freddy is genuinely terrifying. He is disturbing. He's grotesque. He's not lovable and funny at all in the movie, and you're going to see a theme going through this video. He does kind of crack some one-liners, you know, I'm your boyfriend now and stuff like that, but he's not really wisecracking Freddy yet. So when he does do the little bit of jokes that are not really funny, they are unsettling and off-putting and very, very effective. I think everybody's really good in the movie. It gives us Johnny Depp. Heather Langenkamp is really strong in the movie. It's John Saxon. It's got a solid cast. It's got, Robert Englund creating an iconic character. It's directed by Wes Craven, and he's doing, at his best, really. And it really is definitely a must-see. So clearly the first one is definitely essential. Okay, part two, Freddy's Revenge. The gay Freddy movie, as people like to call it, because of the heavy amount of gay subtext, which really is barely sub and is almost just text. It's so rampant in this movie, and it's become kind of a cult favorite because of the gay subtext. The gay community seems to have kind of embraced this movie, and I think it's all the better for it. I'll admit when I saw this as a kid, most of that stuff went over my head. I missed it. And I look at it now and kind of wonder how? How did I miss it? Because it's pretty blatantly obvious. But I do think it enriches the movie. I think that it makes it a lot more fun to watch it and kind of spot the Easter eggs, if you will. All the gay iconography and the tropes and nods that are in the movie are just kind of fun. And I think it's an interesting movie because of this. Having a male final girl, if you will, is an interesting twist. And I like the concept of Freddy coming out of him, like literally coming out of him. That's a great scene. The practical effects look really, really good. And the concept is really neat. Now, I know a lot of fans dislike this movie because it doesn't really adhere to the Freddy lore that would be established in later movies. And honestly, that didn't bother me at the time when I saw it because that lore didn't exist yet. Freddy wasn't a fully defined character in terms of the rules of how he works. In fact, the first movie kind of violates those rules a little bit as well, arguably. We're not going to get into that. But I don't have a problem with Freddy bending the rules, if you will, in Freddy's Revenge. And coming out of the real world, I actually like the scene, the pool scene. I think it's a lot of fun. And so I don't have those hangups with the movie. And I think he is still wonderfully scary and grotesque looking. He's still kind of slimy and gross, and the burns look really pussy and like you would never want to touch them. And so he looks scary. He comes off as scary. Again, some mild jokes, but he's not really wisecracking Freddy yet. And so all that works for me really well. But does that make it essential? Not really. Like I said, it doesn't fit the rest of the series very well. The Freddy that you see in this movie is different from the Freddy you're going to see for the rest of the series, or most of the rest of the series. And the powers that he has don't really align with the rest of the series. So, in terms of essential viewing, this one can easily be thrown out. It's a shame because you're missing a fun movie. You're missing that gay subtext. You're missing some interesting twists on the subgenre that they're taking. And it's a fun movie, but yeah, if you're just trying to get to the heart of what's essential about Freddy, this is not the movie you need to see. So, not essential. Part three is the Dream Warriors, Freddy versus the Dream Warriors. And this is a wildly, wildly popular movie. And this is where I'm going to throw a little controversy on here. This is not a movie that I particularly love. This is a movie that really introduces the wisecracking Freddy. He's flat out making jokes in this movie. It also introduces the dreamscape as something that's very colorful and unique and interesting and imaginative. This is where the rubber reality of Freddy really sets in. This is his ability to reshape reality to his liking and making these imaginative set pieces that are wildly, colorful and crazy and absurd and dreamlike in a way. Is a credit to the series because it's now where you're setting the series apart from all your other slashers. Nightmare on Elm Street is vastly different from all the other slashers because of the rubber reality. It really is a unique spin on it. And then you've got Wisecracking Freddy, and Robert Englund plays Wisecracking Freddy great. I don't love Wisecracking Freddy. I like Scary Freddy. Wisecracking Freddy is fine. I enjoy it just fine. I don't hate Wisecracking Freddy, but I just prefer. I strongly prefer the Scary Freddy that we got in part one and part two to the Wisecracking Freddy. That said, doesn't mean I can't have a good time with it, and I do have a good time with this movie. I don't hate this movie. It's just lesser for me than several of the other ones in the series, and for a lot of people, this is their favorite. A lot of people gained entry into the franchise with this movie. This is the one that they think of when they think of Freddy, and it really is the Freddy you're thinking of. You see the first two movies and you have an idea of what Freddy's about, you're not going to reconcile those two things. But this movie gives you the Freddy you're expecting to get. And it's got a fun cast. It's got, Patricia Arquette's in there. Heather Langenkamp comes back, which is a good part of the movie. It's got a lot of fun things in it. There's the good grossly outweighs the bad for me in this movie, so I still like it. Like I said, I just don't love it the way everybody else does. But is it essential? Yes, this is the movie that creates Freddy. This is probably as essential as the first one in terms of understanding the franchise and understanding the character of Freddy Krueger, because this is the Freddy that you know, the Freddy that you probably love. This is where it starts in part three, kind of like Jason getting the hockey mask in part three of Friday the 13th. This is where Freddy becomes the icon. And so this is definitely essential viewing. Okay, part four is where things start to get a little rough. Part four, the Dream Master, is where things, for me, take a severe nosedive. This is where we actually get rid of the Dream Warriors. They all get killed off in the movie, and even Patricia Arquette is her character returns, but the actress doesn't return, and the actress who replaces her Tuesday Night is doing just a fine job. But it really, if you got attached to the characters in part three and you wanted more of them, this movie is going to feel like it does a little bit of a disservice to them, especially because the characters that replace them, Alice and her people, really fall short. They don't have the same charisma or likability as the ones in part three, and you don't connect with them as well. And so as a result, the movie feels very flat. The ending is very weak. It really, it feels like a transition period, but the transition is going to something you like less. Like, even if you are, more of a fun Freddy fan, a funny Freddy fan, you're gonna feel the difference between part three and part four. You're gonna feel like you wanted to keep the part three vibe, and the part four vibe feels more like a pale imitation than it does actually continuing that. And I think that it loses a lot in the translation. The new characters are weak. Freddy is full on funny at this point. He's not scary anymore. Even his look is not scary anymore at this point. He still has burns and stuff, but they look more rubbery and not grotesque and pussy and sticky and stuff. So he's less scary, less threatening. Now, obviously, this is to appeal to more mainstream sales, to kids. The marketing of this was full blown at this point. People had Freddy costumes and Freddy lunchboxes and stuff like that. And so, it feels like the movies are now in service to that, in service to the marketing, and that's a shame, because it really hurts the series. So I do not like this movie, and I also say it's not essential. In fact, this is a great thing to skip, because you don't want to watch the decline of what they set up in part three, part one, or part three. I like part one better, but if you like part three Freddy better, you're still going to be disappointed. So yeah, skip this one. Not essential. So then that brings us to part five, The Dream Child, which is unfortunately more of the same from part four. It's got Alice again, who is a very weak character, and it introduces a new set of friends, also weak. It's just doubling down on what part four did in the worst possible way. It's just flat and it's trite. At least part four had been directed by Rennie Harlan, so there were some sequences that were memorable and interesting. Part five doesn't even have that, so it's a largely forgettable movie. It's got, if you go behind the scenes and watch it, like watch some of the stuff, the behind the scenes stuff about it, documentaries and whatnot, you'll understand that they had some budget issues and stuff like that. There was a lot of problems leading to part five feeling so subpar, and it shows. It's on the screen. You can tell that it's not even as good as part four, and that's saying something, because part four is pretty bad. Part five is really bad, and they really have lost the pulse of Freddy as a horror film, but they're still trying to have fun. So I'll give credit where it's due. They still have the imaginative dream sequences, which has become Freddy's calling card at this point, and it's really the strength of the franchise. The imaginative dream sequences, the elaborate set pieces, the wild dream logic settings are really the calling card of the movie, and it's what makes them not be boring. Like, these movies are not good, but at least they're not boring, because you see some interesting dreams that are set up and some interesting kills as a result. But they're really not good movies, and so this is another not essential. This is another one Professor Victor does not like, but it's also another non-essential Freddy movie. You can skip this one as well. Part six, aka Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. And we all know that that's not true because we know there's more movies in this franchise, and because these slasher franchises never live up to the hype when they say it's the final entry. But this is potentially one of the more egregious ones, not because it lied, but because it's so clearly out of gas at this point. The franchise is out of gas. It's out of ideas. It's still going to the well of, ridiculous dream sequences, and that's the only thing that's fun about the movie at all. That and Robert Englund, he never phones it in. He always gives a solid Freddy performance. He's always over the top and maniacal. And if you like funny Freddy, you're gonna get that here. It's everything else. The story doesn't really track very well at all. It introduces, a long lost relative that we'd never heard about before, which is usually, to me, the sign of some really weak writing. And then it's got, weird like gimmicks. Really, it's got the 3D gimmick for part of the movie. The whole movie's not in 3D, only part of it. So they get the 3D gimmick. They've got the lost family member gimmick. They've got weird cameos like Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold showing up for no good reason. It's just really random, gimmicky stuff thrown together to kind of try to make what should be, or what should feel like an epic Freddy movie, the end of Freddy. And, his demise feels no real different than any other demise he's had in any other movie. And that's, pretty disappointing, frankly. It's a very limp entry into the genre, the subgenre, the franchise. And it's like the nadir of the franchise. It's really bad at that point. I do not like this movie. It's probably the worst in the franchise as far as I'm concerned, for pretty much every reason. Even Freddy himself doesn't really seem like he gets great moments in this. So it's very much not even forget a movie. This one's just really bad. Like it had this been the last one, I'd say it was essential. If even if it just had a really good way of ending Freddy, even for him to be resurrected later on, I would maybe give it a pass and say essential, just because final nightmare or whatever. But it doesn't live up to any of that. It doesn't live up to any of the things that it wants to promise to you, or any of the things that you deserve after watching 6 movies in the franchise. It's definitely not essential. And now we get to Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and the franchise, for me, starts to get back on track. This movie is one of my favorites in the franchise, and I absolutely love it. And it is a big departure over the formula that we've seen in the previous installments, but it is kind of trying to get back to basics. It's got Wes Craven back as a director. It's got, Heather Langenkamp back as Nancy, but also as herself, and it's got ambition. It's got the intent of making Freddy scary again and taking the franchise and the character in a fresh new direction. The idea, the meta take on this, where the movie is about the real people making Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and Freddy is actually the representation of this mystical monster that needs to be contained in stories. And when you stop making Freddy stories, he actually starts to get into the real world. That's a fascinating idea. I love that idea. I love the meta take on all of this. I love that Robert Englund plays himself, but also plays Freddy. I like the idea of a darker edge Freddy who's meaner and a little bit more threatening. Again, trying to get back to that first Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy, who was meaner and darker and more wicked. All of this is great. It doesn't stick the landing. The landing is not good. The ending is it kind of regresses into just another big fantastical Freddy set piece, darker and scarier maybe than a lot of the ones you've seen in the last few movies, but definitely kind of trips up on the ending just a little bit. And so the ending is always a little disappointing to me. The first 2/3 or so of the movie, the first 2 acts, I absolutely love it. The final act, it's fine. It's not a bad thing. It just doesn't live up to what it sets up. And that's unfortunate, because it could have been an epic movie. It's lovely that you can see the precursor of Scream in this movie, Wes Craven's, follow-up, movie Scream. You can see the nuggets of the ideas for Scream being planted in this film, and I love it. It's absolutely great. And so I think this is exactly what the franchise needed. It needed a new direction. It needed a fresh take on that. And something to kind of resurrect the franchise and resurrect the character and make it all mean something again. And I think it succeeds in that. Even if the ending's not great, I do think it succeeds in reviving the franchise. Although ironically, the franchise didn't make a bunch of new installments after that, but it did at least remind everybody that Freddy was there, put him back on the map, kind of wash away the stink of the last 3 films. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and call it essential. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I really love the movie, but I do feel like this movie was necessary to kind of wipe out the quagmire the garbage that we'd gotten in the last three movies and give it kind of a fresh start and give the character kind of a bath, if you will. So I'm going to call it essential. Next up, we got to talk about Freddy versus Jason. And this is funny. I always think of this movie more as a Friday the 13th movie than as a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And that's probably just because of my biases. I tend to like, Friday the 13th more. But it is a Freddy movie too. And in fact, arguably, you could say that the movie itself leans more into the Freddy universe than it does into the Jason universe. And I wouldn't fight you on that. I would actually agree that it feels more like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie than a Friday the 13th movie to its benefit. Once again, you're getting some of the dream sequences, the rubber reality that's kind of famous for the series, but toned down a little bit, just a little bit, but not quite as goofy and silly. I mean, Freddy's still cracking some jokes, and he's a nice blend to me of funny Freddy and slightly scary Freddy. Not full on first movie Nightmare on Elm Street scary, but a little bit more threatening, a little bit more menacing than we'd seen him be in those middle movies. So I think that the new Nightmare really did succeed in giving Freddy a little bit more of an edge again. Now the movie is out to appease both sets of fan bases, and so Freddy doesn't get the whole movie. So you might feel he gets a little bit of short shrift in the movie, and Jason fans might feel the same way because they're sharing the screen, and there's maybe not as many fights as you'd like to see between the two. But I do love the movie. I think it's a lot of fun, and it was a huge hit. One of the biggest hits for either Freddy or Jason. A massive hit. The popularity is still there. I think the new Nightmare allowed Freddy versus Jason to be successful by reminding people of the character, even though it took so long for Freddy versus Jason to get made. I do think that people had that love for Freddy still, and I think it's because New Nightmare did wash away the stink from some of those other movies. So I do think it's a lot of fun. I do really enjoy that movie, but it is kind of out of continuity for the Nightmare series. So is it essential? Not really. If it's out of continuity, if it doesn't really have an impact on the series, the franchise as a whole, then I think you could probably skip it. Even though the big hit, the big box office for it does lend you to think that it's kind of important because it's showing how popular Freddy still is. If you're trying to understand the franchise, you can skip this one. It's non-continuity, so I definitely would say not essential as much as it pains me to say that. And now we get to the remake, Nightmare on Elm Street. The retelling or reimagining of the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie that is much maligned. People really hate this movie, but I don't. Here's my other controversial take. I actually like this movie, and the reason why I like it the most is because they're trying to get back to Scary Freddy. Again, I think people really love Freddy because they love him cracking jokes and having these scary, weird dream sequences that are fun and imaginative and bright and gross and whatever. And that's fine. That's cool. I'm fine with that. But I like Scary Freddy. I like the Freddy that scared the crap out of me when I saw that first movie and gave me nightmares. And they're trying to do that here. Are they completely successful? No, not really. Jackie Earle Haley makes a really good Freddy in terms of being gross and creepy and off-putting and unlikable. But he's still no Robert Englund. Robert Englund's performance in that first movie is great. And Jackie Earle Haley doesn't quite match that. But I think in a vacuum, I still like what he's doing there. I think they got a cast of good actors, and I like that. The CGI is a little bit, that's a little disappointing. I wish they would have gone a little more practical. I always say that, but I do like that they're going more dark and making Freddy unappealing, not funny, not likable, and I think that's why people don't like it. I think people don't like having gross Freddy. I don't think they like Freddy being a child molester, even though that's really kind of what he was, and it was just kind of downplayed in the whole series. I think putting it front and center really made people uncomfortable or unhappy because they kind of want to root for Freddy and enjoy Freddy, and he's not a guy you root for in this movie at all. And that's what I like about it, and that's what I think a lot of people don't like about it. They want funny Freddy, and this didn't give it to them. I think that might have been a better idea to remake part 3 and turn part 3 into an origin for a new series of Freddy movies and give the people what they wanted instead of trying to go scary. But I'm glad they did. I actually like the movie. It's, again, not without its faults. It's got its issues, but I do enjoy it. But is it essential? Absolutely not. It's not an essential movie. It's a remake. Remakes are pretty much never essential. It's a rare day that a remake is essential. So you can definitely skip this one if you're trying to explore the franchise. And most people would tell you to skip this one. And even though I like it, I'm telling you to skip it too because you don't need to see it. It's not one that you have to see for your Freddy education. So skip the remake. So that's our exploration of the Nightmare on Elm Street series and which movies are essential and which ones are not. And that's where we stop because they have yet to make another Freddy movie. And we've been waiting a long time for that. But the remake really seemed to cool off the appetite for it. They need another new Nightmare type thing to get everybody's excitement about Freddy back again. And so far, we haven't gotten it yet. But as you can see, there is more to consider non-essential rather than essential. Really, if we're going to recap it, it's just the first one, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, part three, The Dream Warriors, and part seven, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Those are the only three that I feel like you need to see to understand the Freddy Krueger character and understand the franchise. Everything else, if you really like it, check it out, but it's non-essential. You don't need to have it for your horror education. You don't need to have it to understand Freddy. You can skip all of that stuff. And that's probably why I like this series less than I like Halloween and Friday the 13th, where I said there were 5 essential movies in each of those. Only 3 here. Now, granted, there are fewer movies in this franchise, so percentage-wise, that may not shake out. I'm not going to do the math because I was an English major. But there is, less to love for Freddy and more to dislike, in my opinion, in the movies. So that's kind of a bummer. But I still think the franchise has merit. I still love it. I still enjoy it. I still call it number 3 on my list. Although there's some love for some of the other series, I love me some Child's Play, some Chucky. I love Candyman. So there are other ones that are contenders, but Freddy is still Freddy. He's still great. I still have my Freddy claw and everything. So it's still indoors. It's still great. It's still worth your time, even though there's only 3 that I think you absolutely need to see. So as promised, I'm going to go ahead and give you my rankings for the Freddy series, the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and I'm going to go ahead and start with number 1, the first one. And caveat that these all tend to change, but this one tends to stay fairly the same. This one hasn't changed as much as like the Friday the 13th series, the Halloween series, where I'm constantly kind of tweaking it. This one tends to stay the same, but it's always number 1. The first Nightmare on Elm Street is just a classic. It's a beautiful movie. Then New Nightmare, Part 7. I absolutely love New Nightmare. It's one of my favorites. It's so clever. I really wish they stuck the landing, but I still put it in number 2. Number 3, I'm going to go with Part 2, Freddys Revenge. Maybe controversial having it that high. Don't care because I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's an underrated movie, and it's nice that it's now starting to see some love from people. People are starting to finally come around on that. Next, I'll go Freddy versus Jason because it's got Jason in it. It's also in Friday the 13th movie, so I can't help but love Freddy versus Jason. Then at my 5th slot, I'll go with Dream Warriors Part 3, which very controversial because like I said, a lot of people have this either number 2 or even number 1 on their list. I've got it all the way down at 5. Sorry, like I said, I explained why. Still a good movie. I still enjoy watching it, but it's not my favorite. Then after that, I'll put the remake, which may seem high to a lot of people because I know a lot of people really despise that remake. And all I can say is I almost put it above Dream Warriors. I didn't because I do actually think Dream Warriors is probably the better movie, but I almost did it. I almost did it because I do like that remake. I'm sorry, I do. Then after that, it doesn't even matter. But I'll put them in order of this. I'll go with number 4, Dream Master, then number 5, Dream Child, and then number 6, Freddy's Dead. They're all terrible. But Freddy's Dead's probably the worst one to me. It really is just a slog to get through. Part 4 actually have some fun with it. The first half I like better than the second half, but I have some fun with it. Part 5 really bad, and Part 6. God, it's almost unwatchable. So I'll put the last 3 in that. But the break between number 6 slot and then the last 3 is vast. So those are my rankings for that. Let me know what your rankings are. I'd be curious to hear because I know they're going to be very different than mine. So let me know what your thoughts are on your rankings, and also if I miss ones that you think are essential, make a case for that in the comments below too. But now I want to go ahead and do a horror trivia pursuit card live here on camera because I like doing that. It's been kind of a fun tradition. Now, I don't think we did that in the other Essentials videos because it wasn't a tradition yet, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now. And I'm going to look at the killer category on the card because, we're talking about slasher icons. We're talking about Freddy. So it'd be awesome if it was a Freddy question, but it's not. It's not. Here's the question that I'm going to try to answer, and you guys can answer at home. The question is, when the dance is canceled in the present day in 1981's My Bloody Valentine, where do the teenagers decide to hold their own party? And it's funny because I have an answer that pops in my head, and then I have a second answer that pops in my head, and I know that that's probably wrong. I think I talked about this recently in another question where I have this tendency to try to talk myself out of the right answer, and I think that's what's happening right now. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, especially if you know the movie generally, if you kind of know the premise of the movie and you know who the killer is or the aesthetic of the killer in this movie, then you have a pretty good idea of how to guess the right answer, assuming that I am right. If I'm wrong, then this ignore everything I'm just saying right now. But I think that it's kind of something you could use deductive reasoning and get to. But then I have this second answer in my head. And I think I have that answer in my head simply because of one of the scenes in the movie that's kind of a well-known scene. And I think it's in my head, and so I'm gonna dismiss that. I'm gonna ignore the thing telling me to use a different answer, and I'm gonna stick to my original answer because I get myself into trouble otherwise, talk myself out of the right answer. And I'm giving you some time to think about it yourselves. Again, if you don't know the answer, but you do have a general understanding of My Bloody Valentine, then this might be helpful for you to think out what the movie's about and who the killer is and what the killer looks like, and maybe use that to kind of try to get yourself to the right answer. That's my hint for you, if you will. And if you don't have that knowledge, then you don't have that knowledge, and you're not going to get the right answer. But I think I've prattled on long enough, bought some time. So my I'll tell you my actual answer, but the answer that kind of crept into my head after that was the laundromat, because there's a laundromat scene, and I'm like, no, that's not correct. That is not correct. Don't say that. So that was the thing that was kind of poking at my brain, and I was kind of trying to push it away because my actual answer is the mine. Because Harry Warden is dressed like a miner. The whole movie takes place in a mining town. The mine is like a central part of the plot. So that's kind of the obvious answer, and it is the right answer. But like the back of my head, it keeps saying laundromat, laundromat. I don't want myself to win apparently. So I'm going with mine. Hopefully you have your answer locked in. Let's take a look at the card. It's the mine. It's the mine. It's exactly what I thought it would be. Thank God I didn't change my answer, because that would have been foolish and it would have been embarrassing. But did you say something embarrassing? Was that an answer you guys had, an embarrassing answer? Did you say the laundromat or something else? Let us know in the comments below what your embarrassing answer was, so we can revel in your misery. But hopefully you got the answer correct. Hopefully you had a good time talking about Freddy with me. I know you guys have some different opinions than me, so share those in the comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Freddy. Tell me why I'm wrong about any of the movies and why they're essential. Tell me why I'm wrong about Funny Freddy. Tell me why the remake is terrible to you. If you have a different reason than what I said the reason would be, let me know. I'm all ears for it. But we'll continue the conversation in the comments below, and then next week we'll have a new video. But until then, class dismissed.